Jasmine Crockett unveils hidden truths that leave. Elon Musk reeling on live TV. What was scheduled as a routine panel on corporate responsibility and free speech turned into one of the most jarring live television events of the year. It was just after 7:00 p.m. Pacific Time inside the brightly lit Fremont Civic Auditorium in California when Representative Jasmine Crockett walked on stage without a press team, without prepared notes on the screen, but with a plain manila folder in hand. Opposite her sat Elon Musk, introduced to mild applause, responding with his typical dry wit about sarcasm regulation on Twitter. The audience chuckled. The cameras rolled. CNBC, in collaboration with Stanford Law, had expected sharp discussion. What they didn't expect was a surgical dismantling of reputation, sealed not with rage, but with evidence. From the outset, Crockett's demeanor signaled a shift in tone. Her calm posture, her silence, the slight forward lean, as the moderator began opening remarks. Each gesture underlined quiet precision. When asked for her initial thoughts on platform bias, Crockett replied with a question instead of a statement. Mr. Musk, she began, can you confirm whether the diversity and inclusion data for Tesla's Fremont plant from 2014 to 2017 was ever formally submitted to the Department of Labor? Musk blinked. I'm not sure I have that on hand. You remember the 2016 internal audit, don't you? Without waiting, she slid a document to the moderator. A previously unreleased audit showing marked disparities in racial equity, unprocessed complaints, and obstructed promotions. The air in the room tightened. Musk shifted slightly. Where did you get that? It was sent to my office by a former employee, Crockett said. One of 37 who signed a letter citing internal retaliation. The document was real. The signatures were verified. The shift had begun, and this was only the opening 10 minutes. The moderator tried to regain control, gently steering toward a discussion of algorithmic impact, but Crockett wasn't done. She turned another page and placed an internal email on the table, this time involving senior Tesla leadership. It described factory workers as, quote, low-skill liabilities. Musk looked again, harder this time. That document isn't authenticated, the email header, as Crockett said, and the source verified it under oath with the House Ethics Committee. That was when the murmurs started, soft but palpable. The audience was no longer passive. They were absorbing questioning. Musk responded, people evolve. Companies evolve. Crockett didn't raise her voice. When the same executives are still in place and the same complaints are still being filed, is it really evolution, or is it silence dressed up as change? It was no longer a debate. It had become something else. A few rows back, Politico's senior correspondent typed furiously into her phone. Hashtags emerged online in real time. Charn, Tesla, emails, Crockett vs. Musk. On the screen, CNBC's producers opted for a tight shot, Crockett and Musk side by side, tension rendered in high definition. Then came the testimony. One of those contractors, Samuel Reeves Crockett, continued reported unsafe working conditions in 2016, missing safety shields, exposed wiring. The complaint never reached OSHA. It was shut down internally. That same individual was labeled non-rehirable 2 weeks later. Musk leaned in, attempting composure. I don't handle individual HR cases. I'm not asking about HR, Crockett replied. I'm asking why your company suppressed the file. Another paper slid across the table. Another piece of corroborated evidence. The moderator fumbled with his cue cards. This wasn't rhetorical warfare. It was methodical reckoning. As Crockett continued, Musk's retorts grew less assured. What began as his usual blend of charm and disruption slowly unraveled into frustration. He reached for his water, but missed the glass the first time. Crockett wasn't gloating. She didn't need to. The strength wasn't in tone, it was in timing. Then the broadcast shifted again. This, she said, unfolding a final document in that set, is a series of written statements from workers at your Nevada facility contracted through third parties. Denied HR access, penalized for reporting hazards. One man nearly lost 3 fingers. When he complained, he was told he was replaceable. Musk inhaled slow. Would you like me to read the names aloud? Crockett asked. No, he said quietly. The room froze. You're acknowledging the report. I'm acknowledging that improvement is always needed, Musk said. But framing me as the villain doesn't help anyone, Crockett interjected. Neither does pretending you're not at the wheel. The exchange wasn't just heard, it was felt. In the back row, a woman stood. Christina Dillon Crockett introduced. Former engineer. Her posts about pay discrepancies were flagged. Her account was suspended. She's here tonight. Dillon didn't shout. She didn't hold a sign. She stood. Steady. Present. I loved working there, she said, until I didn't feel safe. It was the moment no one could prepare for, because it wasn't performance, it was testimony. A statement not designed to go viral, but one that would anyway. And Jasmine Crockett, still seated, turned to the moderator. I'll speak on social media governance, she said. Right after this. Then she reached for the next document. Jasmine Crockett didn't pause for applause. She wasn't waiting for permission. As the cameras stayed locked on the 2 central figures, she placed the next document flat on the moderator's desk. This, she said, is a legal settlement. Typed clearly in bold at the top of the page, confidential settlement, Tesla Motors, Inc. Jackson family. The moderator leaned in slightly, eyebrows narrowing. Musk did not. Does the name Elijah Jackson sound familiar to you? Crockett asked without altering her tone. Elon Musk hesitated. We've had many settlements. Elijah Jackson was 17. Crockett continued, hired through a third-party agency, assigned to maintenance work at your Fremont facility, instructed to handle high-voltage equipment despite not being certified to touch it. The air in the auditorium had shifted again. Not louder, just heavier. Even the audience members recording with their phones had stopped mid-pan. No one moved. He was electrocuted, Crockett continued. The internal investigation blamed him, but his family recovered text messages from his supervisor, ordering him to get the floor cleared, certified or not. That supervisor, she added, still worked at Tesla. Musk didn't interrupt. His eyes remained on the paper. The Jacksons were issued a settlement, Crockett said, with a clause. If they spoke publicly, the compensation would be rescinded. The moderator turned to Musk, but before he could ask anything, Crockett pressed forward. They contacted my office after learning about this panel. They stayed quiet for years, because silence was the price. No indignation, no sensationalism. Just names, dates, facts, evidence, and grief. Behind the scenes, CNBC producers whispered to one another. Someone mouthed the word emergency. Still, the broadcast continued. You didn't sign the settlement, Crockett said, but you signed the internal HR memo clearing that site supervisor. She slid the second-to-last page forward, Musk's initials clear at the bottom. He didn't speak. The moderator, now visibly strained, tried to bring the conversation back to safer ground. Congresswoman, if we could pivot back to the original topic, I'll make the transition. Crockett responded. Right after this. One more sheet. No frills. No legal jargon to obscure its impact. She turned it toward the camera. A Slack conversation, she said. From Tesla's global design team. July 2018. Regarding your planned facility in Cebu, Philippines. Musk's eyes darted toward her. It was the first time he visibly reacted before she even finished a sentence. That project was canceled, he said quickly. It was, Crockett agreed, but not before industrial waste systems were implemented, and not before those modifications dumped into a protected estuary. She flipped the page. The local contractor tried to report it. His contract was voided. The email thread shows Tesla legal affiliates in Manila instructed local reps to, quote, kill this softly, no blowback. A beat of silence. Then your name is in the thread, she said. You replied to it. You wrote, no headlines, please. Handle this cleanly. For a long moment, Musk didn't move. Then his hand rose slowly toward his face. not to defend himself, just to steady. No one in the audience reacted with gasps anymore. There was no space left for theatrics. This wasn't shocking, it was sobering. Crockett's voice, still calm, pierced through that weight. "I didn't come here to attack you," she said. "I came because people who believed in your vision, people who showed up and worked, deserved more than silence and a settlement." The moderator's voice cracked slightly. "I think we should take a break." But Crockett had one more turn. "The Jacksons lost a son," she said. "They buried more than a child. They buried truth until now." She gestured to the final document still on the desk. She hadn't opened it yet. But she didn't need to, not yet. Because at that moment, Elon Musk slumped forward. No dramatics, just sudden gravity. His hand gripped the edge of the table. His lips moved, but no sound followed. Then for the first time, the room erupted. A voice from backstage. "Call someone, cameras," cut to black. The live stream ended. But the moment did not. Backstage aides rushed forward. The moderator stood frozen. One of the producers shouted over comms. EMTs were already en route, delayed by downtown traffic. Musk sat still, conscious, but subdued. His lead assistant knelt beside him, whispering. And in the foreground, Jasmine Crockett stood. She didn't gloat. She didn't move toward the audience. Her folder sat open in front of her. Only 3 pages remained. She looked to the side. One of CNBC's junior producers approached. "Would you like to issue a statement?" Congresswoman Crockett shook her head. Not yet. She walked off stage quietly, through cables crates and silence. Outside the building, the parking lot filled with whispers. Not of scandal, but of reckoning. And online clips began surfacing. By the next morning, national headlines weren't just about what happened on stage. They were about what had finally been heard. By sunrise on the West Coast, the questions had outpaced the headlines. Was it real? Was Musk's collapse a medical emergency, or the physical culmination of pressure, long ignored, but more critically, was any of it true? At 6:00 a.m. Eastern, Jasmine Crockett's office preempted speculation with a single quiet act. It published a full digital packet titled "For the Public Record." No commentary. No press conference. Just raw documentation, redacted statements, authenticated screenshots, time-stamped Slack exchanges, whistleblower affidavits, and dated HR memos. It landed with the force of silence breaking through years of noise. By 7:00 a.m., 2 major news outlets had verified the authenticity of the internal communications shared live on stage. CBS aired an early interview with Nadine Jackson, the mother of Elijah. She sat at her kitchen table in Rancho Cordova, holding a photo of her son in a factory jumpsuit. "He was proud to work there," she said, "until he didn't come home." That clip was viewed over 10 million times before noon. Tesla issued a short statement. "The panel was a politicized attack. We respect the need for oversight, but we ask for fairness and due process." The statement did little to calm the rising tide. Within hours, internal Slack channels from Tesla were leaked. One engineer posted under a verified employee account, "We weren't warned. Some of us didn't even know about the Cebu incident. Now, I've got 3 friends calling me, crying, asking if they were complicit." It was no longer a news cycle. It was a reckoning. And while Elon Musk remained silent, reportedly under observation declining interviews, the world kept asking harder questions. In Washington, the calls began. Senator Felicia Gwen demanded a review of whistleblower protections in tech industries. Congressman Julian Reigns initiated a formal request to reevaluate Tesla's standing in federal contracting. 3 former executives from Musk-affiliated companies contacted national media, volunteering to speak on record. But Jasmine Crockett didn't flood the circuit. She released only one statement. "This isn't about a man. It's about a pattern. We've mistaken brilliance for immunity. That ends now." For 48 hours, she stayed out of view. No interviews, no TV appearances. Instead, she listened to calls to testimonies, to emails from workers and families. And in that quiet, the momentum grew. From Reddit to TikTok to morning radio, a new kind of conversation emerged, not about celebrity or collapse, but about power and the cost of silence. A 16-year-old from Fresno uploaded a video titled, "Why I Want to Be Like Jasmine Crockett." She spoke of her mother losing a factory job after raising safety concerns. She and her aunt watched the panel together, crying. On Reddit, users began posting under a new tag, "No More Silence." Some shared stories of being discouraged from filing reports. Others described being terminated after raising concerns. For every name Crockett had read aloud, 10 more were finding the courage to speak up. By Monday, the political machine had fully turned. The House Committee on Energy and Commerce reopened its dormant file on Tesla's contract history. The Department of Labor announced a round of audits targeting third-party contracting practices at Tesla facilities in Nevada and California. And the SEC quietly began reviewing investor communications regarding the previously undisclosed settlements. Crockett returned to Capitol Hill that afternoon. No press conference, no entourage, just her legal advisor and chief of staff. Reporters surged forward. Was Musk going to be subpoenaed? Had she coordinated this in advance? Was this the beginning of a political movement? She didn't stop, but she did say one thing just loud enough for the recorders. Truth has its own timing. I just listened to it. Inside her office, the calls kept coming. Some angry, some emotional. Most just ready. One stood out. Leroy Haynes, a retired site manager from Sparks, Nevada. 72 years old. No lawsuits, no press record. I never thought I'd speak up, he said. But after hearing the name Elijah Jackson, it all came back. He remembered a safety incident, another near miss. His report had been buried. I kept a copy, he added, signed, dated. I don't want money. I just want it on the record. Crockett listened, took notes, then thanked him, and then turned back to the next call. Because this wasn't about one panel, or one man, or one folder. This was about everything that came after. The ripple effect was swift, visible, and unmistakable. Senator Amina Reynolds, long skeptical of tighter tech regulations, posted a statement that cut through party lines. If Crockett's evidence holds, this isn't a Musk problem, it's a system problem. One that's let innovation become a shield. Even voices previously supportive of Musk's advocacy for free speech began softening their tone. At a town hall in Florida, one Republican representative put it plainly, "You can't call it cancel culture when someone shows up with receipts." And the public was watching. Elon Musk remained off social media for 3 days, a rare silence. When he returned, it was with a single word, recovery. It didn't land. His comment section was flooded. Some expressed concern. Others demanded answers. A few simply posted timestamped screenshots from the panel. By then, edits of Crockett's quiet composure and Musk's visible discomfort were everywhere, from news feeds to classrooms. Tesla tried to regroup. A memo reminded employees not to engage with media inquiries. SpaceX discreetly removed 3 names from its compliance leadership page. A solar partnership in the Philippines, connected to the now confirmed estuary incident, was reportedly under review. But damage control wasn't enough. Jasmine Crockett still didn't grandstand. Instead, she kept listening, kept reading, kept taking meetings behind closed doors with former contractors, labor attorneys, community leaders. Then something unexpected happened. The public stopped looking at her as the headline and started seeing her as something more permanent. A voice that wouldn't look away. Letters poured in, from nurses, from welders, from veterans, from teachers. One message stood out. A handwritten note from an 82-year-old man in Tulsa, Oklahoma. "I never heard of you before Friday. But when you looked that man in the face and told the truth, I sat up straighter in my chair. You didn't just speak for yourself. You spoke for all of us who've stayed quiet too long." This wasn't a media cycle anymore. It was a shift in tone, in language, in courage. It hit Jasmine Crockett herself one afternoon during a quiet trip to a Safeway in Alameda. She was walking down the canned goods aisle when a woman holding a toddler on her hip stopped her. "You're her," the woman said softly. "The one who spoke up." Crockett gave a brief nod. "Just doing my job." But the woman continued. "No. You were calm. You didn't flinch. That matters." The toddler reached out and touched the edge of Crockett's folder. The Congresswoman let her tiny hand graze it before stepping away. That's when she realized this wasn't about Elon Musk anymore. It was about truth, and who finally dared to say it aloud. The following week, Crockett's schedule filled to capacity not from TV networks or news panels, but from labor forums, legal working groups, and civil rights coalitions. The Washington Post ran a full-length feature, "The Voice That Couldn't Be Ignored." The Atlantic questioned whether this was the beginning of a new legislative model, one that didn't lead with party allegiance, but with presence and preparation. Even 60 Minutes called. She declined. Instead, she went to Bakersfield, a union hall. No teleprompter, no campaign branding, just a mic and some stapled notes. "I'm not here to fix a PR mess," she said. "I'm here because the rules don't mean much if the powerful don't follow them." A steelworker in the front row stood. "Do you think you embarrassed Elon Musk?" Crockett paused. "That was never the point," she said. "He was already embarrassed. I just turned the lights on. The room didn't erupt. It leaned in." Back in Washington, the legal wheels turned harder. The Jackson family filed an ethics complaint with the Department of Justice, supported by a coalition of litigation attorneys, galvanized by Crockett's panel appearance. Environmental task forces opened new inquiries into the Cebu facility's waste disposal, backed by 3 subcontractors who stepped forward, each one confirming the incident. Each one naming names. News outlets stopped asking whether Crockett had won the moment. They started tracking what she'd moved. Tesla stock saw a modest rebound, but not enough to calm shareholders. Musk appeared twice via pre-recorded videos at tech conferences. He did not address the controversy. Trust doesn't measure in earnings calls. It measures in attention. And right now, all of it belonged to a congresswoman with a folder and a voice unwilling to tremble. The moment had shifted from confrontation to consequence. Within weeks, the headlines began to echo the same theme: accountability. Not forced, not manufactured, but demanded organically from the ground up. Crockett didn't return to television. She returned to her district, to libraries, union halls, and church basements, places where microphones were handheld and stories weren't edited. At every stop, people stood up. Not to ask about Musk, but to tell their own truths. Factory workers, nurses, janitors, veterans. Whenever someone said, "I'm not sure this matters," she answered the same way. It matters the moment you speak it. This wasn't rhetorical, it was structural. At the AFL-CIO Leadership Summit, Crockett addressed hundreds of labor representatives. Don't wait for someone else to carry the weight. If you see something wrong, speak it even if your voice shakes. Clips from the speech spread across social media, not because she posted them, she didn't, but because people did. They weren't sharing her image, they were sharing her example. Not long after, a poll conducted by a mid-sized research institute asked Americans to name someone they trusted to ask hard questions on live television. Crockett came in second, just behind Michelle Obama. But she wasn't campaigning, she was legislating. Early fall brought what some thought was inevitable, but few expected so soon Crockett's direct national address. No grand stage, no dramatic lights, just a wooden podium, one mic, and a single flag behind her in the congressional media room. The room was packed, silent. "I didn't come here to make headlines," she began. "I came here to ask questions, to get answers, to ensure the voices we don't often hear are put on the record." She didn't mention Elon Musk. Instead, she spoke about systems, about contracts, about what happens when ambition is rewarded, but accountability isn't. "We reward genius in this country," she said. "We celebrate it. Sometimes we even worship it. But when that genius starts hurting workers, families, communities, and no one speaks up, that's not innovation. That's negligence with good PR." Then she laid out 3 legislative proposals. 1. Strengthening protections for whistleblowers in private tech and manufacturing sectors. 2. Enforcing transparency standards for federal contractors. 3. Limiting the enforceability of gag clauses in civil settlements involving workplace harm. Reporters shouted questions. Only one got an answer. A young freelancer asked, "How did it feel sitting across from someone that powerful and not blinking?" Crockett paused, then smiled, tired but steady. "I wasn't sitting across from power," she said. "I was sitting across from silence, and I refused to match it." That clip alone reached over 22 million views in 5 days. The ripple effects continued inside boardrooms, behind courtroom doors, and on factory floors. More hearings were scheduled, more documents surfaced, and more people stepped forward. Not just from Tesla, from other companies too. Some were scared, most were ready, because someone had shown them it was possible. The story didn't end when Elon Musk fell silent. That was only the ignition. The story continued across lunch breaks into late-night kitchen tables, through anonymous tips and signed affidavits. In every place where someone had once been told, "Don't speak up, it won't matter," now they knew better. Because the truth, when spoken clearly, doesn't vanish. It echoes. It stirs people who've stayed quiet for too long. And most importantly, it reminds us courage doesn't always shout. Sometimes it simply refuses to sit down and just keeps talking, even when the world wants it to stop.